Okay, if you read the title for this video, then you already know what it is. So I'm just going to go through primarily my plus 10 units here, these 15 or so between Eirika and Rhys, and after that I will comment on some of the other important units that I have at low merges or at plus 0. Okay? Okay. Also, I should say, I started playing when the game came out, but I'm not really a free-to-play player. I have the Fay Pass, and I've bought several of your packs, so not free-to-play, but also not really a whale. Okay, let's start. Eirika's first. She also also wait, there's more. I'm also gonna comment on some of them at least. I'll comment on whether or not I think they're worth investing in today, because a lot of these are older Gen 1 units that I obviously invested in a while ago, so I might say whether or not I think they're worth it in modern times. Okay. Eirika, this is Resplendent Eirika. She's one of my summoner supports. She's very strong as a light tank because you can stack buffs on her with her Sieglinde, and especially with support from Kaden. She is the most reliable light tank that I've used. In all time, she's just extremely strong. It's pretty easy to just stack on ridiculous passive buffs onto her. I have the HP boon on her because I wanted her to pass the 70 HP threshold, which has been very useful. However, in this most recent update, they just announced that they're going to increase the level on the Panic Manor, so kind of bullshit, but yeah, that's what they're gonna do. So now if I want to pass that HP threshold, I'll have to give her like HP plus 5 or something stupid like that. She has attack defense solo as her seal right now, just because she needs all the attack she can get, since I'm not using her attack super boon. But yeah, that's Eirika. I think no follow-up is obviously the best B slot for her in AR because she needs to combat impact effects from Eliwood and also Bramimond. I would say she's worth it to invest in modern times because it's just pretty easy to stack on all these buffs onto her. However, if you don't have her resplendent form, then at that point it becomes a little more questionable. There are like plus 0 units and plus 1 units that are like Gen 5, like a Gen 5 plus 0 unit can do just as well as a non-resplendent Eirika, I feel like. That's Eirika. Next up is Laslow. Laslow, for a while, was my best Astra carry. If you don't know, his perf gives him the Brave effect if you set it up correctly. And when he first got his perf refined, like, people were super excited about it. And I was kind of looking for a reason to build Laslow anyway, just because I liked using him in Conquest. So I went for it kind of on a whim. I gave him Pull Smoke and Distant Counter. This is like his ideal skill set. He has the Deflect Magic Seal because I like having it to help him survive Thracer and Reinhardt, or at least that's what the rationale used to be. I don't use him as much in Astra AR anymore, just because I have Astra tanks that are more reliable. I have Brave Hector and I have Winter Altina. Using Laslow with his Brave effect was still pretty fun. It wasn't as brain dead as some other like really strong sword units, because you do have to be careful about how you set up his perf. And I would say that's honestly his downfall, is that his perf is just a little too much work to set up properly. There are some things about it that are nice, like for example, they only have to be within 3 spaces, which means that you don't have to worry so much about panic smoke and stuff like that. I think even in the first place, his perf was a little overrated. Like, I know the game press tier list when he first got his perf had him in like tier 1, up there with like Fallen Ike and Merida and all that, and I always thought that was exaggerating his utility, and they seemed to agree because they did end up demoting him eventually to like tier 2 or whatever. So yeah, he's fun. You can make him work if you like Laslow, but otherwise, I wouldn't say it's overly worth it to invest in him. One more comment, you do want to have a 2 cooldown special on him, preferably with someone that can grant him the breath effect, like Lucina, or someone who has infantry rush equipped, yeah, that one, because that will help him activate Ruptured Sky on every combat. Caeda is maybe one of my favorite Resplendent arts. It's just really good. The Niffle arts are kind of boring sometimes, but I like Caeda's a lot. I built her in the first place ages ago so that she could be part of my arena core. I had fodder for our Flyer Duel, so I went for it. That was back before our Flyer Duel was outdated. Her perf is unique because it allows her to use Flashing Blade, which flyers can't usually use. So with the armor effective damage, and with Gale Force, and with Flashing Blade, she's actually a pretty good utility unit, honestly. She actually stands up pretty well to, like, Brave Edelgard and Legendary Edelgard. Any kind of monster axe armor she actually does surprisingly well against. I've always had her with the Guidance Seal just because it's helpful in Arena, because she is supposed to be a support unit. She has attack speed rain, which I gave her from Claude. I can give her Pegasus Flight, but I'm still kind of iffy on that. I think it would help her be really strong, but then if her role is to just be an arena support unit, then it's not actually super important for her to be all that strong. I would say investing in Caeda is honestly kind of worth it, especially with the Resplendent form, just because, like I said, she actually stands up surprisingly well to modern armor units with her armor effective damage. I also use her in AB. She's like one of my 4 units that can get kills in AB. And yeah, having Gale Force on like your AB units, your Allegiance Battles units, is very helpful. It makes clearing those maps a lot easier. So Caeda is good for all that, I think. Tiki was my second ever +10 unit, and I think I even did that before she got, but before they like updated the breath weapons to give them adaptive damage. But yeah, the adaptive damage update was huge for dragons, because then Tiki with Lightning Breath and Steady Breath just became a monster that could easily clear almost any PvE content. For a while, I even still used her in like Abyssal maps. She still did pretty well in those maps. This is like her default build that literally everybody gives her, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is literally, this is it right here. The only thing you can maybe question is her attack boon. She can do defense or res as well. I don't use her as much anymore because I don't find myself struggling with PvE content as much, and I don't do the Abyssal maps where she would maybe be helpful. She could really use a Resplendent form. She could use the attack and the defense and the res. She could also use a New Refine, honestly. I know that hasn't happened before, but yeah, her... in case you forgot. She has Breath of Fog, which has dragon effective damage, which is nice, but then the Refine effect is just like this attack defense +5, which she only gets if she's within 2 spaces of a sword or a dragon, which is just very restrictive. The kinds of refines we get like in 2021, they're more like if unit has more than 1% health, unit gets attack defense +5, so yeah, Tiki's Refine hasn't aged very well. I actually prefer to keep her with Lightning Breath and Steady Breath. Up next is Valentine's Titania. She was the first Grail unit that I invested in, and for a long time she was the only one. I saved up a lot of Grails in the meantime. When it comes to Grail units, it's just for so long Grails were like a really scarce resource, and so I really became stingy with spending them. Basically, it came to the point where I was like, okay, I'll only dump Grails on a unit if it's a character I like, and I like their art, and I can actually use them. So like I held off on building Titania just because I didn't know where I would use her. Finally, I decided if I could get Sabotage Attack fodder, then I could use her as a support unit in Astra, which I did for a long time, and she did pretty good in that role, honestly. Just having like a Mage Cavalier as a support unit in AR was really helpful, because she just had really good mobility. So she did well in that role. I kinda switched her out after a while because I started insisting on using bonus units in AR every week, and so at that point I didn't have room for her anymore. I might cycle her back into my AR Astra teams now because we have that extra slot, thanks to Reagan, so yeah, I think there's potential for a lot of utility between this Titania and Reagan running around the map. breaking pots and stuff. I don't know if this is still like her ideal build. Sabotage attack is still fine. Ploys are still okay, but I don't know. And when it comes to Grail units, I wouldn't recommend investing in them unless you like them or unless you have a very specific use for them. I try not to invest in Grail units just so that I can use them in AR, because at that point it's like you're tryharding in AR so that you can get more units to use in AR. It just it's circular and I don't like it. That's why I never invested in Aversa, even though she's still really good. Oboro was among my first plus 10s. I don't... Well, okay, I do remember the rationale behind this. So at that time it was like maybe mid-2018 or something, and Zelgius was still rampant, so I specifically wanted someone who could kill Zelgius, and Oboro did that well enough. She can negate Bold Fighter and Vengeful Fighter and all those skills with no follow-up. Her perf gave her armor effective damage, which was good, and she got close defense on her Refine effect, which is okay. Not game-breaking or anything like that, but yeah, it was okay. I gave her distant counter because at that point I only had like a couple plus 10 units, so I really wasn't looking for like very specialized counters. I wanted like general use units, and that's kind of what Oboro was. At that point, I don't remember if we had the picnic banner or not, but yeah, Oboro. I ended up using her a lot to kill Picnic Flora, because Picnic Flora is just awful to try and fight. She was so bad that I ended up putting my +0 Picnic Flora on my own Anima defense, and she still carries me to this day. But yeah, as for Oboro, probably not super worth it to invest in her unless you just like Oboro and you want someone who very specifically is good at enemy phasing like swords and stuff. I'll also tack on that she still comes in handy occasionally in Arena Assault because I still run into armors all the time, so she's good for killing armors, although in Arena Assault in 2021 it seems like you're more likely to run into like new legendary units and new duo units. You're more likely to run into those guys than you are to run into like armors. So yeah, Oboro not having a good time. Oscar, literally I just plus 10'd him because I wanted to have all the Tellius demote units at plus 10. He's okay. It's kind of hard to differentiate the Lance Cavaliers between each other. Roderick at least has like Fire Sweep on his perf, which is a pretty unique effect. Oscar's is like a more general purpose effect, which gives him special acceleration, which is nice. But then he also gets like this weird joint drive attack speed, which only works with infantry or cavalry allies. It's a little restrictive compared to refines that we get now, but it's okay. It makes him more flexible, which is always nice. And I think now that I have... Where is she? Now that I have Winter Altina and I can actually score well on weeks where Path of Radiance is like a bonus game in Resonant Battles, I think I might start using Oscar for that. He doesn't really excel in anything in particular, so I really can't recommend building him. That's basically it for Oscar. He needs an update, probably. I could probably afford to give him like Swift Sparrow 3 for his A slot. One last note on Oscar. I kind of like having a lunge on him, because like I said, I'm using him in Resonant Battles, and like being able to lunge like those dagger units or those ninjas back like one space is actually pretty useful. So yeah, hopefully Resonant Battles can breathe some new life into Oscar, because otherwise I don't use him very much at all. Subaki is a king. He was my light tank for a long time, and he was super reliable for that time. It's just that with the addition of Bramimond, he started to flounder a little bit because Bramimond just shreds through his res like no one's business. Hell also doesn't help. So yeah, he struggled with the new Dark Mythics a lot, so that's kind of why I had to build Eirika. But I still have light teams that have Subaki, and he still works just fine. His perf has like 3 effects that individually aren't that great, but like taken all together, it just makes him perform surprisingly well. Maybe me most important is at start of combat, if foes attack greater than unit's attack plus 3, grants blah plus 3 during combat. So what that basically means is if the opponent has too much attack, then he basically gets a buff to help him keep up, which is nice. And with Noontime, you can keep him above the HP threshold pretty easily. So yeah, I like using Subaki a lot. He has dual ranged because back when I built him, blade mages were a little more prominent in AR, so dual ranged actually came in handy a couple times, but if I were to reevaluate his build completely, I guess he could probably use Quick Riposte here. If I do run him, I usually give him Quick Riposte in the seal slot because he needs to beat Eliwood somehow. But yeah, I love Subaki. He's probably not worth it to invest in today, just because, like I keep saying, there are better like Gen 5 units that can work well at +0 or +1. So, yeah. Tailtiu. I merged her on a whim at some point. I don't remember exactly why. I think I just liked Tailtiu. Her build is very basic, Fury, Desperation. Nothing special. Her Refine was pretty good, actually. It gives her Wrath and gives her Darting Blow, which is basic, but pretty good. Can't really complain too much with that. For the longest time, I used her in Arena Assault as just a hard check for Halloween Myrrh, and sometimes like Eden, and she was super useful for that alone. But over time, people stopped running Halloween Myrrh, so so I don't use her as much anymore. Also, she's Water Blessed, and literally, if it's water season, then I'm just less likely to play Arena Assault, so that's kind of why I stopped using her also. Theoretically, I could fix that by just giving her a new blessing, but yeah. Tailtiu's alright. She could use her Resplendent form, I think. Titania, another one of my first +10 units. She should have like Speed Ploy instead of Attack Smoke, but whatever. She's good as just a pretty reliable check for blue things. Right around the time they gave her Refine and her Perf, like Legendary Tiki and units like that were becoming more prominent, and like even back then, Titania needed the extra help to kill Legendary Tiki. So I always really liked her Perf, even though it's kind of boring. It just gives her Triangle Adept, but it made her better at doing what I needed her to do. The res tactic Refine on her Perf isn't as useful. I just roll with the res +4 because it helps to activate attack ploy and speed ploy. I would say in general she was more useful years ago because that was back when ploys were just like the best support skills seemingly, and back then even chill defense was like kind of premium. So yeah, she was always just a very good support unit. I actually still use her in Allegiance battles. She's like my green unit that I use to kill things. If you know how AB works, basically you have like one unit of each color that you actually use to kill things. So I have Titania paired with Alm, and then I have Caeda paired with my friend unit. Titania is honestly pretty good. She's aged well just because she can check blue things pretty reliably. So if you like Titania, then you could do worse than to invest in her. Also, I think she's a candidate to get a Resplendent form, which would be really nice. She can use all the stats. Cherche was the first +10 I ever did. I had her summoner supported for a long time. What do I even say? She's just really good, and she's aged pretty well too. If you look at like Har's stat line and Jerome's stat line, you'll see that they honestly don't do like the Brave Axe build as well as Cherche does, or like they'll do like as well. But then Cherche wins in that case because she's just so much easier to merge. So Cherche's actually aged really well. Deathblow 4 is probably her best A-slot skill, even though it's pretty basic. She doesn't need the impact effect at all. She also doesn't need speed or anything like that. One A slot that might be better is Heavy Blade 4, but that's a very premium skill, so I don't have it. Wom combined with Gale Force just makes her a super useful unit. She doesn't need the extra damage output from other specials, so she can run Gale Force. I use her in Mjolnir Strike of all things, because in Mjolnir Strike you have that one unit that can just run around the top rows and just kill things without ever getting attacked. That's what I use Cherche for. Cherche can kill like 2 things every turn, no problem, and she's just really useful for that. Which is good, because otherwise, outside of Mjolnir Strike, I actually don't use it very much anymore. If I ever do Abyssal maps, I will still gravitate towards using Cherche, just because Gale Force units are very helpful in Abyssal maps. And Cherche's damage output is just very good. I think her C-slot skill could be updated. I think Attack Defense Rain would be like her optimal C-slot skill, but that's a very premium skill, so can't really justify doing that right now. But she's good as she is, I think. I can honestly recommend building her, even still. Like I said, she has aged pretty well compared to Har and Jerome, and yeah, she's basically just as reliable as she always was, I think. Soren. Yeah, so what do I say about Soren? Frickin', he's okay. His perf is underwhelming. The chill attack base effect is actually good, but then this Owl Tome refine is underwhelming. It can come in handy. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what I expected. He's useful as a arena support unit because he can run chill attack and chill speed and the B slot skill, you know. He's good for that. Chill debuffs are very reliable. You don't have to pass any kind of res threshold for that, so that's useful. For a while, he was in my arena core, and technically he still is, because for that first fight in Arena Assault, you don't have to run a bonus unit, so that's where Soren comes in. I think occasionally he can bait Legendary Crom and kill him, which is always fun, but other than that, he's not super useful. If they ever update old perfs, Soren would be one that they should definitely revisit. I think Soren was one of the first units to get like a new perf when they started doing that. I keep mentioning my Arena Assault team. Let me show you that real quick. Here we go. So yeah, Arena Assault offense, this is the team I lead with. If I ever build a new Arena Core unit, then Soren would be the first to go. Just because these other guys just are more helpful, usually. Anyway, that's Soren. Brave Micaiah, my first ever 5-star exclusive +10. I couldn't do it until the game had been out for, what, 2.5 years. That summoning stream where we got our 10 Micaiahs was very exciting, and it's just it's a fond memory that I have attached to this unit, so she's cool for that. Her perf is still really good, it's just that man, like the COIL4 units are just so dumb. Claude and Dimitri and Edelgard all got really dumb weapons. Hey, you can't even... like, they blow the COIL3 units out of the water, and it's very sad. But overall, she's aged pretty well. It's only been like a year and 6 months since she came out, so still pretty good. Eunice Whispers is still like the best sabotage skill in the game. Sturdy Impact might be her best A-slot skill, I'm actually not sure on that. For Arena, I obviously run her with G-Flyer Duel. Joint Drive Speed, she actually needs that to score, like, at her maximum score threshold. Like, she needs a tier 4 C skill, which is kind of a shame because otherwise, lull speed res, or no, rain speed res. Speed res rain. That's what it's called. That would be her ideal C slot skill otherwise, but this is still pretty good. It's flexible in Arena when you want to grant someone +4 speed. It's good for that. Seal slot's kind of whatever. But yeah, I still use Micaiah for a bunch of stuff, so obviously very good. Orbs are the most precious resource in the whole game, so I don't know if I can recommend plus 10ing Brave Micaiah. It's kind of rough. At this point, I would almost say you should save for Legendary Micaiah. That's what I'm trying to do, but yeah. I don't think... Oh yeah, I didn't go for her attack super boon, because with her speed boon, she actually gets surprisingly high speed if you combo it with, like, the speed -6 debuff and this passive buff she gets from her weapon based on the enemy's debuffs. So she can actually get pretty fast. That's why I have her with the speed boon. Tethys is an excellent meme. This is her exact build that she has in Anima Defense. I actually don't remember my original reasoning, but now that she's all done, if you don't know, she has a super boon in defense, which brings her 22 defense up to 26 defense. Combo that with the defense refine, and this fortress defense res, and flowers and merges, and she gets to a surprising 41 defense, which is hilarious, honestly. And then I also run her in Anima with Thracer, which gives her 4 more defense. Usually people like building Tethys because she can use Tamari Plus, which is valid. Tamari Plus is a really good dagger. It has that sabotage attack speed effect on it. And she can use it well because she has high res. But I like this build because it lets her survive Altina and actually kill her on retaliation. It's just always really funny when that happens. So like, originally when I fought her to Eden to give her Fortress Defense res, I regretted it, but then like, over time Tethys just kept killing Altinas in AR, and it's definitely worth it now. Definitely worth it. A very good meme. A meme that actually works, honestly. Threaten skills. I've always liked threaten skills, but they're a little less useful now, especially in Anima, because hit and run tactics are a little stronger now, thanks to Reagan. So that's that. Sothe took me forever to plus 10. It took me so long to get like my last couple of copies for him, but he's okay. I would say his perf hasn't aged super duper well. I think the buffs and the debuffs wear off at the end of your player phase. No. It's if the buffs and debuffs activate on enemy phase, then I don't think they carry on through to your next player phase, which is just a little underwhelming. Underwhelming. He's part of my arena core, and he's pretty useful as just a utility unit, but then like this combo of rally up attack with attack speed ruse, you could theoretically put that on anyone and it would work just as well. So I foddered Legarn for Distant Guard like years ago. So that's how he has that. That was before Distant Guard was like in the Grail pool and stuff like that. I would say it's pretty useful as a support unit, but most of his utility comes from attack speed ruse and rally up attack. It's kind of rare that he actually gets to kill something without getting killed on retaliation, so they aren't giving perf refines to the demoted Book 2 units yet, but when they do, I imagine Sothe will be like one of the first ones to get it, and he desperately needs it because his perf needs an update real bad. Mia. So, my only other plus 10 5-star exclusive, also my only seasonal plus 10, I guess except for my Grail units. She's obviously very strong. The way I got her was that I saved up orbs to pull on the double seasonal banner that had Bride Micaiah on it. And for that banner, I needed 8 Micaiahs, and I ended up getting 4 Micaiahs, but 10 Mias, so that's how this happened. This was an accidental plus 10, which was funny. It worked out pretty well. She's a monster on AR defense, so that was kind of my consolation prize, was that I get to have a very obnoxious AR defense team now. If you don't know, her perf gives her damage reduction when she initiates combat, so it's very hard to bait Mia and then kill her on retaliation, especially if you give her stuff like low speed defense and hardy bearing, etc. She's a menace. People hate fighting her a lot, and if I have to play the raids, then so do other people. So I'm okay with running her. I think she could actually use a better A-slot skill because, funnily enough, occasionally she actually does want the extra attack and speed on enemy phase, so for Ether Rate specifically, she could use ARD attack speed. I might actually pull for that since it might be coming up in a double seasonal banner. She could use that. She can use attack speed unity. That might be like the ideal one if they ever make it. Otherwise, I might just give her attack speed push 4. That's kind of the safe option, just because that way I don't have to pull for new fodder. But we'll see. Also, this is like the recommended build on her. Like, this is like the default basic build that everybody gives her at high investment, so it's not... I don't have to say too much about it. The only thing I really could say is that I didn't give her the speed super boon because she usually doesn't need it to outspeed. She's getting like plus 15 speed when she initiates combat, so I just went for the attack. So she has a slightly easier time killing tanks like Vector or Edelgard. Finally, there's Rhys. Rhys is another unit on my AR defense. He's supposed to have Miracle equipped, but I don't have enough SP for it. Yeah. He has Miracle, I just don't have enough SP to learn it yet. I don't really know how to review Rhys because, like, realistically, this build I have on him, you could do this with other infantry healers and it would work probably about as well. But he comes with Palm Staff, so it kind of works especially well for him. Basically, with Palm Staff debuffing attack and speed, and with ARD defense res giving him more bulk, and with this Sacred Seal and Guard and everything else, he's just really hard to kill on player phase, and that's all I need from him. I'll show you my my team here. So here we go. Here's Mia, and here's Rhys. So basically, all I need from Rhys is I need him to never die when people try initiating combat on him from like this space. He just needs to be like this anchor that can't die no matter what. So as long as he can do that, then he's all set. And I've only ever seen him die on player phase once, and it was to a legendary Dimitri who just stomped on him completely. That experience single-handedly makes me want Rhys to have defense res unity now, if they ever make that, because the reason he died was because his defense got badly debuffed, so yeah. I don't really have anything else to say about Rhys, he kind of speaks for himself. Like I said, you can realistically run this build on other healers and it would work just as well. He has drive speed to help Mia. Okay, that is all my plus 10 units. This recording is currently 40 minutes. I was trying to keep it short, but whatever. Now, I'll just comment on some lower merged units that I use pretty frequently. Let's see. Spring Sharena is a unit that I never use, even though I have her at plus 4 merges. I think on like a legendary banner, I just kept pulling her, even though I didn't want her, so that's how that happened. Soniki and Spring Camilla used to be like my premier Raven Tome users. Now I don't have as much use for Raven Tomes, so they kind of just end up sitting in my barracks not doing anything. Spring Camilla's plus 3 though, so that's cool, I guess. I have a plus 3 Kagero, which I got because she was on Yune's legendary or mythic hero banner, and I kept pulling Kagero instead of Yune. That was cool. For a while, Kagero was the armor dagger unit I used on Anima defense, but I switched her out eventually. Valencia gets used occasionally in Abyssal content because Gale Force is just very strong. Here's my Forma Micaiah, who has attack, res push, and joint grab attack. This is like her ideal build, almost. She probably wants like lull attack res instead of WOM, but whatever. I couldn't get I couldn't get lull attack res during that holoforms. Vector is for a short while he was like my Astra tank, and he won almost every time because his perf is just completely ridiculous. I never actually pulled specifically for Vector. I just kept getting him as either an off-focus unit or as like another blue focus unit that I wasn't aiming for. So that's how I got 3 copies of him. It worked out because he's completely insane. Here's my Forma Cecilia. She kind of speaks for itself, not super unique. I don't use her very often. Forma Halloween Mia. During that holoforms, I was focused on getting good skills on Micaiah, so that's why Mia is stuck with attack speed form. Winter Altina is +1, and she is completely broken in Ether raids, so she's like my new she's like my new Astra tank. Using her is completely brain dead compared to like using Laslow, so would recommend. She could use a better C-slot skill, but honestly, she doesn't need it. Camilla. I foddered a Hector and a Hinoka in the first year of the game, so I could buff up Camilla for my Fire Emblem team. And she was super useful back in like 2017, but now she's just a relic of the past. She's a relic of a dead Hinoka, which I wish I had. Yune is a little outdated, but she can still do pretty well on AR defense because she has 30 impact. Legendary Alm is still the only pair-up legendary I have. I never got any of the other ones, so I still use him as my pair-up legendary in AB. Bride Micaiah is only +1, even though I could merge her to +6. I just don't feel like it. Okay, now, as for +0 units that I think are worth mentioning, there aren't very many of them. Violith gets used occasionally to kill, like, Brave Ephraim in Arena Assault. I still use Tabarn to clear, like, story maps and stuff. Flora is on my Anima defense, I mentioned that earlier. Agreen is my only good unit from FE6, so on the limited hero battles where I have to use FE6 characters, I basically have to use Agreen. That's like the one reason I haven't foddered her yet, because I literally need her for those maps. Brave Lucina, obviously a very good support unit. I have her paired with Altina right now, which so it helps Altina activate Twin Blades more. Brave Ephraim, for a while, was Micaiah's support partner in Arena Assault, or in Ether Raids. It was just nice being able to inflict this attack speed ruse debuff whenever I needed it. Legendary Azura, I got on that one banner where it was like, you had a 25% chance to get Azura, otherwise you were stuck with like Duma or Halloween Myrrh or Lyn. I don't know if everybody remembers that banner, but yeah, I lucked out big time because I got Azura, and I use her literally like by default in all the abyssal maps and stuff like that. She's completely insane, even still. Probably shouldn't have been this good in the first place, but whatever. I got mine, so. Oh, she's also in my dark defense, but only when it's water season. Grima is actually a somewhat dependable counter for Legendary Crom, so I'll give him an honorable mention for that. Pirate Tabarn is completely ridiculous. It took me like 500 orbs to get 1 copy of him, so overall I regret pulling for him, but he's still very useful, so whatever. And that's basically it. Yeah. I pulled Plumeria recently, and I'm gonna put her on one of my AR defense teams, I think. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm sitting on a lot of skill fodder that I haven't decided what to do with yet. It's come to the point where I'm like, okay, I should probably make it a point to use some of these. So if you have ideas for how I can update my builds, let me know. with this skill fodder here, and also down here. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe. I'll upload more Fae reactions as they come. And that's it. I guess also, if you use any of these units as well, and you have like different builds or whatever, then you can talk about that as well in the comments.